Hey guys, what's going on? It's Emus99. In this video, I'm going to give you guys a long-awaited review of the Lenovo Y510p. So I've owned mine for over a month now, and I think I can give you guys an accurate, in-depth review of the Y510p. Now, a little bit of information on my configuration. I have the one with the i7-4700MQ processor clocked at 2.4 GHz. Also paired with two 755Ms, which is the 755M SLI configuration, which is the best config that Lenovo offers at the moment for any laptop of any kind. It's the most powerful gaming laptop you can get that Lenovo manufactures, even surpassing the Y50, which came out, I believe, a month ago. That has an 860M. It's lighter than the Y510p is, but really the Y510p is better than the Y50 in almost every respect, except for the addition of having optional 4K displays, which is really, ahead of its time, and nobody's going to play in 4K because it has the 860M, which can't even handle 4K gaming. So it's not really practical. You're better off just going with the 755M SLIs because it is a more powerful setup than what Lenovo offers with the Y50. They're ditching the SLI, which I don't think is a good idea personally. But you can still get your hands on the Y510p, which does have the SLI. So yeah, that's just my little spiel. If I did not have the Y510p, I'd still go for it over the Y50 because the single 860M isn't as powerful as the 755M SLI. Anyway, I also have 8 gigs of RAM in my setup, and I have a 1TB hard drive with a 24GB SSD, which really speeds up quite a few things. It speeds it up substantially. Granted, having a single SSD would be better, but at the moment, I'm not really looking into getting a secondary or primary, for that matter, SSD. I'm totally fine with the 1TB 5400 RPM hard drive. Now let's get started with the build quality. Now this should apply for all configurations, no matter if you have a single 750M, a single 755M, or SLI configurations. It's basically the same thing for every config. Okay, so the build quality on this thing is really nice, surprisingly good in fact, that it was better than I initially expected. I'll have my unboxing video in the description because I did make an unboxing video about a month prior to this. So if you want to check that out before continuing on with this review, I'll have an option to check that out by clicking the link in the description. But it actually blew me away because it's made of this... I know it's made of plastic, but it also has this nice aluminum texture to it. It feels nice and refined and feels like you're actually getting what you're paying for, which is a good thing, needless to say. But Lenovo decided to put this weird glossy finish over the matte texture, which is a bit weird, so as a result, you may have fingerprints on your laptop. That may not be a big deal. It shouldn't be, actually, because you should be able to clean your laptop every few days. But I mean, I shouldn't really be telling you what you should do with your stuff, but a little bit of a recommendation if you decide to pick it up, because it does collect quite a few fingerprints, especially on the lid, and it also is a dust magnet on the lid, which can be a little bit of a detriment, but you know what, you have to clean it every now and then. As for design, it's nice. The finish is excellent. I like how it's tapered along the edges, and I like how the edges are rounded. I just like that design. Of course, it's personal choice, but I like the design of the rounded edges. I think it's really nicely put together. The backlit keyboard is spectacular. I like the red color. Red is my favorite color, so maybe I'm just biased there, but a lot of people said they wanted to see different colors like blue and stuff. No, red is fine. Red is good. I like red, so I don't have a problem with that. But I think that it's a nice keyboard. The buttons can be a bit small, the keys, I should say. The backspace key is the slightest bit smaller than what I'm used to, but you get used to it within a couple of days. It's adjusting to a new keyboard is like, I guess, riding a different bike than what you're used to riding. Bad analogy, but whatever. And it's nice. I got used to it, so I don't have any problems. It's just something getting used to a different keyboard. But once you get used to it, you'll find that it's really nice, and the red keyboard will really grow on you, and you'll continue to love it. So, design is great. I have no complaints with the design. The build quality is good, but the design is better than the build quality, of course, because they had to keep the price down in order to match it up with the top-end specs that it has. So on this thing, you have two USB 3.0 ports, which is nice. I used to only have one. And you have an HDMI out and as well as a VGA input. Input output I don't know if there's a difference. I looked it up. There's a small difference between what it means, but it may potentially be monumental. I don't know, maybe if you're into that stuff, I don't know. It has an HDMI port and a VGA port, there you go. And you also have a gigabit Ethernet port to the left of that. And you also have a fan, which is nice because if you didn't have a fan, this thing would fry. And it does fry, even with the, cooling system. Anyway, so you do have a fan there, and then you also have LED indication lights on the front lip of the laptop, and then you have an SD card reader slot. And then to the right, you have the Ultra Bay, which houses the second graphics card, which is one of the main reasons why you would probably want to buy this laptop. It has a cooling fan integrated, presumably, but I don't know for sure. But it's a second graphics card. It basically boosts your game performance to 1.6 times the game performance that you get with a single 755M or 750M or whatever. But it's really nice when playing games, and I'm going to show you that in a bit, so don't fret. So the design is nice. I like how everything's laid out. I don't like how the headphone jack is on the right side. I prefer it on the left, but that's just a little bit of nitpicking on my part. It's just because I'm used to always having it on the left, but it's a small complaint, really. So, opening it up, it looks nice. I mean, the bezel is thicker than what I'm used to, but it's really grown on me. And when are you staring at the bezel? Never, unless you're looking at the webcam. The webcam, by the way, wow, I slipped that in there like a boss. Anyway, it's a 720p webcam. It's average. It's an average webcam. It's not as good as like the iPhone 5S front-facing camera, so it's not like you're gonna get that good of a result out of it. It's 720p, although resolution doesn't really matter. It could still be 4K and crappy, but still, it's 720p. It's nice. It's great if you're on Skype calls and stuff. It works fine for that. Other than that, I don't really see you making a YouTube channel from this camera. It's just not gonna work out. Audio from the integrated mic is good, actually. It's surprisingly good. Not as good as the mic I have, other mics, but it's good in an emergency if you don't have a mic with you and somebody Skype calls you. It's more than enough. It's more than sufficient. In fact, it's above average in my use. I'm pretty used to crappy integrated laptop mics, so it's a nice improvement for me. So yeah, webcam is good. It's better than average, in fact, because it's actually in HD resolution, and you also have a good mic accompanying it, so that's nice to know. Yeah, so the bezel is the slightest bit thick at the top. I don't know why they're doing that. I don't know if it's a design decision. It doesn't bother me much because it actually looks better, because I can't imagine having a thin bezel while playing a game. I don't know. Now I can't go back to it. Anyway, yeah, that's just my little gripe on it. The design could be a bit improved with the bezel. Maybe make it the slightest bit thinner. But I don't really see making it too thin. That just look a bit weird now since I'm so used to the thick bezel. But yeah, but the bezel's just the slightest bit thick for my taste. I don't know, I just prefer a slightly thinner bezel, but it's grown on me and it's not a big deal, because when are you looking at the bezel other than like during Skype calls or something like that? So it's not a big detriment to me. Detriment, I use that word like 6 times so far. It's not a big deal to me, but maybe it might be a poor design choice in some people's eyes. It sure was in my eyes at first, but I got used to it, and I didn't mind it afterwards. And the speakers. This thing has GBL speakers. They're really good. They're not spectacular. They're not like an amazing level, but they're above average for speakers on a laptop. Very nice, surprisingly crisp lows. I was actually surprised because I thought it'd be very muddy. It's not. It's actually refined. Bass is refined. Lows are refined. Mid slightly recessed, but who cares really. Highs, bit tinny and brash, I do have to say. But you're not going to be using this for like close monitoring. It's just nice, maybe if you're playing a few songs in a small room or something. It's more than sufficient for that, but not like for monitoring audio when you're recording or something, or recording gameplay footage. It's nice for playing YouTube videos and stuff while you're by yourself, or if you have a friend, it doesn't matter. But I meant like if you're in a small room, it's more than enough. It's ample, loud enough, and it's actually quite surprisingly good for its size, because the speakers are actually quite small on the laptop. But it's actually nice, and the GBL speakers are a good improvement because they're surprisingly good speakers. I was quite surprised, so nice to know. And it's also nice when playing games because you get that extra oomph if you don't have speakers or, external speakers or headphones. So, Windows 8, love it or hate it, it runs really well on the Y510p. I really have an awesome Windows experience thanks to the laptop and the speed it provides and the nice crisp 1080p display. I like Windows 8 personally. In fact, I love Windows 8 and I really prefer it to any other operating system that a desktop can provide. And yes, I'm speaking for all. Maybe Linux. Actually, Linux comes in at a close second because I love Ubuntu, but I don't have it right now dual booted on my laptop, but I may in the future because I really love Ubuntu. So anyway, yeah, it runs really well. Things load quickly. Boot times are surprisingly good for not having an SSD, or not having a primary SSD, I should say. Caching with the secondary SSD is actually rather effective. I do see a bit of a difference, actually dramatic difference, because I did have a 500 gig 5400 RPM hard drive prior, and boot times were upwards of 30 seconds, and now boot times are like 4 seconds for me, which is really nice, and it's a welcome change. So the screen is really nice. I have the 1080p anti-glare display. If you get different configurations, it comes in 1366 by 768 glossy, 1920 by 1080 glossy, or 1920 by 1080 anti-glare. I have the 1920 by 1080 anti-glare. This is my first laptop using an anti-glare display. It's really beneficial, especially since my laptop faces a window, so it's directly in the face of sunlight, and it's really beneficial having an anti-glare display, especially when gaming and stuff. It's nice. I really like it. It's a welcome change over glossy displays. I like glossy displays because of the fact that it's glossy, but it's really annoying when it's like 6 o'clock p.m. and the sun is straight to the west of me because my room faces the west, so during, the evening time, the sun is beaming directly at my computer. It's nice not having to face all that glare that I'm used to experiencing. The thing, though, which really pisses me off a bit, is that the bezel is glossy. So you have a glossy bezel, but an anti-glare display, which is beyond me in terms of design choices. Just my 2 cents, I just dislike how they decided to go with a glossy bezel. And the bezel isn't small, by the way, so it has a glossy, large bezel, and then you have a 15.6-inch anti-glare display, which isn't bad at all. In fact, the display is fantastic. It's just the glare on the bezel that ruins it slightly. So yeah, it's just a little complaint with that. But the display is spectacular. Vivid colors, great viewing angles for a non-IPS display, and it's great. Spectacular display. Probably the best display I've seen that is not on a mobile device. So it's great. Great display. Can't knock it down for that. And especially since you're probably going to be doing a lot of gaming, that's nothing but beneficial, of course. And now the worst parts of this laptop, the trackpad. The trackpad is abysmal. It sort of follows the design of the MacBook Air, so yeah, not a good start really, but they try to incorporate Windows 8.1 multi-touch elements with the touchpad, and it doesn't work too well. For one, you can't click while dragging, which is odd. It's just this one large button that tries to act as a trackpad. Not good. Again, most of you are going to be using an external mouse, which is what I'm doing. I'm sure many of you aren't going to be using the touchpad, but for web browsing, it's really abysmal, and it's a pain, really. Now, this part of the video is dedicated to the gaming power of the Y510p. Now, this is probably the main reason you're going to be getting this. I don't imagine you getting this for web browsing and stuff like that, although I'm sure you're probably going to be doing that. Gaming is the #1 reason to get this, and you would be right to get this laptop if it's your #1 reason, which I'm pretty sure it is. For me, it was a secondary reason, so I'm sort of the exception. Maybe there are a few out there, please. But I was the secondary guy. I was the guy that was like, I'm probably going to game a little bit. It's not really a main concern for me. I just need the power to video edit. I need the power behind me. I don't want a slow web browsing experience. Yeah, I was that guy. I knew I was going to play games. That if it didn't have, if it had a discrete graphics card, then I was interested. I did not want a powerful processor and an integrated graphics card because I knew I wanted to game. It was just a secondary reason. It wasn't my primary reason. Again, I have the 755M SLI. It has the best gaming power you can possibly get from the Y510p. It's the best that Lenovo offers in a laptop at the moment, and it performs similarly to a GTX 660 or GTX 760. It's not up to a 760, but it's between a 660 and a 760 because there is a difference. It performs roughly to that desktop equivalent, so it's really nice. It plays all games at high or ultra at 60 FPS, probably a mixture of both. Most games will not run 60 FPS on all ultra settings, although I do have a few. Like Tomb Raider I can play full ultra 60 FPS, Far Cry 3 I can play full ultra 60 FPS, Grid 2 I can play full ultra 60 FPS, Metro Last Light is an exception. I can only play a mixture of high and ultra. Metro Last Light is an extremely intensive game, so I can't run it at ultra 60 FPS. I can run it at ultra maybe 40 FPS, but not 60. It's a really intensive, taxing game. I can play PES and FIFA 2014 at 60 FPS. Who am I kidding? I could probably play that 400. Man, a laptop from 2009 could probably play that at a steady 120 FPS. Saints Row 4 plays ultra 60 FPS. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a crappy port. Let's just ignore that. Assassin's Creed 4, I can play that at ultra 50 FPS. Not full on 60, but it's good enough. Of course, since it's a laptop, it does get hotter because, of course, there's less of a cooling system than with a desktop that has ventilation, usually multiple cooling systems and stuff like that. But with the laptop, you're fairly limited. And since you have two graphics cards, it's even more difficult to maintain temperature. And this thing does get really hot, so don't try to put this on your lap while gaming. You will burn yourself. Yeah, so keep that in mind. This thing does get hot. I heard it was because of some thermal paste, like it's not as adhesive or it's not as effective. There, that's the word. It's not as effective as other thermal paste. I'm not going to mess with that stuff. It's not worth it to me. 97 degrees is hot, but I don't really see any GPU performance problems. When it throttles, it's not evident. Let me put it that way. When it does throttle, it's only ever so slightly evident in gameplay. I may drop maybe 5 frames per second temporarily. It's not a big deal because I'm usually playing at 60, so if it's at 60, I'll fall to 55, and that's not really a big deal to me. Like, if you play every day, maybe over the course of 2 years, your GPU may, decrease in performance gradually over time. Yeah, that is a thing. If you play a lot, you may decrease your GPU's longevity, so keep that in mind. As for GPU fan noise, it's actually not that bad. I expected it to be much worse from the get-go, and it's actually not too bad. Now, it is pretty loud because, of course, keep in mind you're using 2 GPUs. They're running at fairly high clock speeds, and it does make quite a bit of a noise, especially when using 2 GPUs, but it's not that bad. If you have headphones on, you'll probably not be able to hear the fan noise anyway. It's mainly for the people around you that may be slightly annoyed. But if you have headphones on, you probably wouldn't hear it. Of course, they have to be pretty good noise isolating headphones, but they have to be pretty good noise isolating headphones. But it's not too loud. It's not like, wow, that's annoyingly loud. It's moderately audible, let me put it that way. It's not too loud, but it's higher than average for a laptop. But then keep in mind all the power going behind it, and you probably won't even care that much, but it's not too bad. So this was a pretty long review, but at least this was a pretty long review, and I hope I provided as much information as possible. So for value, this is the best value for gaming laptop you can get. I'm talking period, blank for blank. This is the best gaming laptop you can get for the price. You can get my configuration, the same one I have right now, that can play most games at ultra, 60 FPS, full HD, and you can get that for about $1,000 right now. I'll leave a link in the description where you can pick it up. Absolute steal. I don't know how long this sale will be going on for. This sale was much better than when I actually got the laptop, so I'm actually helping you guys out here. I'll leave other configurations too, but the one I have is the best deal, and I'm not just saying that because I have it. They have a lot of different configurations, but they're really not as competitively priced. Even though they still are good values, they're not as good as the 755 SLI config. But yeah, if this thing was $1,500, it'd still be a good buy. And I'm not kidding. There are a lot of $1,500 laptops that still don't provide this much performance. Alienware. But for the price that it is at right now, which is roughly $1,000 to $1,100, fantastic value. I will say it deserves a perfect 5 out of 5 for the price, keep in mind. If it was a little bit more expensive, of course, expectations would be higher, of course, reducing the score. But this is perfect for the price. If you are willing to, sort of neglect the touchpad issues, which you probably wouldn't be using anyway, and sort of the lack of I don't know what I'm saying, but it's mainly the touchpad that really knocks it down in terms of stuff. You know, it looks nice, but it doesn't perform nice. It functions horribly. The touchpad I'm talking about. So overall, fantastic value. Again, 5 out of 5. The only two things knocking it down are the touchpad, which is mediocre, and also the build quality is great but not spectacular because they did have to cut a few corners somewhere. The design is great. The material is spectacular. It feels nice, but it collects a few fingerprints. You may have a bit of a build quality issue if you're very unlucky, and the touchpad is something left to be desired. But other than that, everything is spectacular. I really enjoy my time with this, and it's what I use every day. And I really could not recommend it any higher than what I'm recommending it right now. Go out and get it if you're looking to get it. Really, you will not regret it. As far as getting it over the Y50, if you're looking for something that's light and you can just slip into a, I don't know, man purse or something, then you should go ahead and get the Y50 because you're not going to get the best performance. The Y50 performs a little bit under than what you'd expect from the Y510p, but for the size, it's great. The Y50 is great for the size, but if size doesn't matter to you and you don't care if the laptop is a bit bulky, of course it's not really bulky, but it's bulkier than the Y50, then go for the Y510p. It's a better value in almost every aspect because it's been out for about 8 to 9 months now, so you can find very good deals for it. And the Y50 just came out, so really there are not really any good deals coming out right now. In fact, I think you can only get the Y50 from Lenovo at the moment, and it's about like $1,300 for the 860M full HD display, so it's not really worth it at the moment. But as for the Y510p, really recommend it, guys. That's my review. I hope you liked it. Thank you for watching. I tried making this a little bit different than usual, a little bit more cinematic, I guess. I don't know. I'm still learning, so yeah, don't really knock me off for that. But at least you enjoyed this, and maybe I'll be able to improve this style of review in the future, you know, like a voiceover and stuff. I know I'm still sort of new at it because I haven't really been doing it lately, but hopefully I provided an informative review, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. So thanks for watching. If you liked it, and if this helped you make your decision, give this video a thumbs up. I would appreciate it, and it would make people know that, hey, this may actually let me know about the Y510p. So thanks again for watching. I don't know how many times I have to say that. If you liked what you saw and you don't see my videos and you've never seen my videos, go ahead and subscribe or watch my other videos. I would appreciate it, and I'm sure that you would appreciate it as well. I'm sure that your brother would appreciate it if you have a brother, and if you don't have a brother, I'm sure that your one of your family members or friends would appreciate it somewhat. But thanks for watching, and I will catch you all. So take care, guys. Even if it's just 99 out. Peace.